Yeah, so newsjacking, I believe the word was invented by a guy named David Merriman Scott, and he wrote one of the best-selling books about marketing. It's called The New Rules of Marketing and PR, and it's been published several times by Wiley, same publisher as The Conversion Code. And he wrote a supplemental book called Newsjacking, and it's about how to take advantage of trends that are going up into the right, because people are already searching for them. People are already looking for them. People are already consuming them. And so it's not a easy skill, but it's one that every big company uses. We saw Remax for the premiere of Game of Thrones put out a beautiful custom Game of Thrones throne that they had designed. So it's one of these things where I think about Bird Box, Steve. You know, Bird Box, like if we would have been doing the water cooler during Bird Box, like I should have did a whole episode with a blindfold on, right? Because that's what all the memes were. I saw a really funny meme with Bird Box and it said, you know, this is Zillow trying to guess your home's value, right? Or this is a Fizbo trying to sell his own house. So there's trends that are going to happen in pop culture. And as a business, if you can ride on the shoulder of giants, go for it. And if you do it the right way, it's actually really cool. I know we've got some examples here, Steve, but
right, so you've got examples like, so you're mentioning things like Bird Box, like Game of Thrones. So those are like big pop culture things that like it's tough to predict. Those are things that like, at least with Game of Thrones, you know, we've had the last 6 weeks that we've known like the last season is airing across this 6 weeks. But then like, are there other things that you can newsjack with? Like, can you add it to your content calendar in a more consistent way?
You really can. I mean, if you think about stuff like the NBA Finals, the Avengers, you know who does a great job of this is SNL, right? You know, whatever the most popular story is this week, that's probably going to be their cold open at the beginning of their Saturday show. We've got a client, he does a great job of this, my man Kenny Fast. Kenny Fast out in Oakland, San Francisco area. He actually creates custom designs for almost anything in pop culture. And he, you know, whether it's Captain Marvel or Avengers Endgame or Game of Thrones or Walking Dead, he kind of creates his own little custom newsletter on the back of that stuff, which I think is right. Now, the key is you've got to do it the right way, because part of it is you don't want to like just steal, just straight up use their copyright inappropriately. Part of it is you want to be kind of sensitive, I would say, to the landscape or to what you're newsjacking. But why don't you do this, Steve? Give some examples where you personally have noticed newsjacking done right recently. And I think we have a slide to show a few as well.
Yeah. If we could throw up that slide, we collected several really great examples of newsjacking that have happened. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So that's actually that's one of the best ones that I've seen.
Bring up the other example, because there's tons of companies that are newsjacking. Yeah. They're taking, like we saw some really cool chocolate eggs, but they're dragon eggs. You know, the mother of dragons. You can see the way they designed the egg, a huge dragon-inspired egg. There's actually Adidas getting in the game, and they've got custom pairs of shoes for the different kingdoms.
Chris, as a lifelong Red Jordans guy, could you see yourself wearing those sweet, sweet red and gold Lannister-inspired Adidas? Could you do it?
Yes and no. I feel like, you know, it's the red keep, and that's a maroon shoe. So I think that for them to call that the red keep edition, it should have been a little redder. So the answer is no. I'm not giving the.
We've got some notes, Adidas. We've got some. Yeah, notes.
But like also like the white can that the words appear with the cold. That's Mountain Dew. Did a really smart thing. And then what's the one there for the throne, Steve? I know you love that one.
Oh yeah. So Bud Light took one of the most popular ad campaigns they've ever run. Not weather, but in fact, the dilly medieval style Bud Light ads. And then at the Super Bowl, I bet most of the people watching this episode right now saw it because they put it in front of the biggest audience possible. They did this crossover, Bud Light and Game of Thrones, where they had the Bud Night. And then, and in true Game of Thrones fashion, just after introducing this beloved character, they killed him off. So I thought that was really cool. And then one of my personal favorites, it's not on the slide, is Omegang Brewery. They've done it the right way over the course of like 8 years. They have published every single year of the television show a beer inspired by the show. So that's actually what I'm drinking right now. is the Omegang For the Throne.
Yeah.
There's that in a specialty glass that I got like 5 or 6 years ago. Like, I mean it. They have been on this beat since before the show started.
Yeah,
so
and honestly, Steve, you're
Lifetime
right.
Achievement Award to Omegang.
There's probably a monthly opportunity to Newsjack. Like when I think about what's coming up, that's a beautiful bottle.
It's so nice.
That's a beer.
And that's not even their only one. Here's the King in the North. Like they've done it really right.
Yeah. So here's some upcoming opportunities for you guys. June, you've got Father's Day. You know, everybody's going to be looking for stuff to get their dad, best things to do with dad, best places to take dad, best gifts for dad. July 4th, where should we go watch the fireworks? Best places to see fireworks. How about Black Friday, right? There's all the marketing about that. In fact, we've got a really cool suggestion for Halloween. There is a website called diedinhouse.com. And you can put in any address and it'll give you a report if there were ever any natural or unnatural causes of death in that property. So that would be kind of, there's going to be all the haunted houses, Steve. There's going to be all the doom and gloom for Halloween. But I want John to pull up a slide for us because there's a tool called Google Trends. And what Google Trends does is it makes it really easy to figure out, like, when should you start newsjacking? So this is the interest line for Game of Thrones over the last 12 months. And you can see that when the show's not on the air, there's not a whole lot of searches happening for it. There's not a whole lot of buzz for it. We compared it to like a show that has no buzz right now, like Z Nation. You can see that show's just flatline. So not a whole lot of equity in newsjacking Z Nation. But you'll notice on that graph that you can see exactly when the excitement for Game of Thrones is happening and when it peaks. So if you were to put in Father's Day gifts, if you put in July 4th fireworks, Google Trends will show you exactly which day to newsjack. You basically want to catch that upside of that curve. You don't want to wait till it's at the height of it. You don't want to be a little too soon. You don't want to be too late. Kind of find that Goldilocks zone of when the rocket ship is taking off. Now, Steve, the other thing about newsjacking, though, is we've seen it done really wrong. So what is your opinion on if there's a tragedy, a storm, a politicized event? Like, should we be, like yesterday, Donald Trump spoke at the real estate event in Washington, D.C., and, that created thousands of conversations online about it. Like, should we newsjack politics?
Right. So
what's your advice there for people?
Yeah. So to me, it's one of those when in doubt, don't do it. Mm-hmm. So if part of your brand is being politically active online, if that's something that like you've already put your stake in the ground, whatever direction you lean, if that's part of your earnest, genuine online personality, okay. But beyond that, I would err on the side of caution. I think that there, like the examples that you just gave of good things to newsjack are things that are fairly universal. That are things that people are going to be searching for regardless. And so you get into really, really hot water when you not just go political, but you get into certain event-based sales. So we've seen some really, really nasty examples of newsjacking gone wrong. Some of them are fake. I want to clarify.
Let's pull this up, John. Pull up the slide.
We've seen some fake ones that are awful, but then there's some real ones that made me say, "Oh, you know better." And I'm talking about Walmart in this case. There was a Florida Walmart, which is that's the setup for just about any story from where we grew up.
Florida man
walks into a Walmart, and I don't even like talking about it. They had a display of Coca-Cola set up. And it was around September 11th, and they set up their 24 packs of Coke in the shape of the flag, but then they had the Coke Zero with the black boxes set up like the Twin Towers. And to me, never forget on the sale of Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Well, what's the Cheerios or Oreo or what is that? SpaghettiOs?
Oh yeah. What was it? Take a moment to remember, and it's I don't. What does your canned pasta have to do with an event where people lost their lives?
Well, the Subway one is the worst, but we want to be clear. That is a parody from The Onion But the reason The Onion did that parody is because there are so many businesses trying to newsjack a tragedy.
Yep.
That was a parody, so I don't want to throw Subway under the bus, but the concept, you can see, how different is the Walmart one from the Subway one. It looks almost identical. So I would just say you're right, Steve. Use your best judgment. And if 1 ounce of your being says not to do it, don't do it. I was reading actually a quote from Warren Buffett this morning, which is just really ironic. The quote was, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to lose it." I think about that all the time. I mean, think about, Steve, how much work, time, effort, money, people, sweat, blood, tears has gone into growing Curaytor.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden we just try to get a little too cute on one campaign and half our audience tunes out forever. So I would say newsjack, but I would optimistically newsjack. That's probably your best bet, is stay away from tragedies and stay positive. I think that's probably 2 really good best practices. Now, I will say as a caveat, like, we have a client who helps businesses with workplace safety, and they literally keep people safe when there's a shooting. It's called Trident Shield. And, if that is your business and there's a school shooting, I think in that scenario, Steve, it's okay to have an opinion about it and to talk about it, because that's your true expertise. That's what you do.
Right. But I think if you're in your lane, I think that's part of it. But I do like every time we have one of those tragedies, people say, don't politicize this tragedy when people start talking about it. I would generally also say, don't commercialize a tragedy. Yeah. But when you have the role that you can perhaps help prevent something like that, if that's part of your business model, I'd still be cautious. I'd probably be sending emails and not tweets about it. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Where you get someone who knows someone who was affected by it, might see it and find it insensitive. And I'd rather just like do some direct outreach marketing and leave it off of the social media and do some more one-to-one, because you're talking to people who might have just dealt with something horrible. Yeah. So probably the best to be as human as possible, to bring it back to people work concepts, be a human being about it.